People's Platform. Good evening and welcome to the People's Platform for the Newsfirst team. I'm Niresh Eliathambi. The dust is settling quietly on the political landscape. The NPP has the presidency, has parliament, and has most of the local government bodies. And we don't expect another election for some time. So now it's time to get down to the real work. And what is the real work? Recovering this country's economy. We went down to rock bottom. I don't need to remind our viewers of where we were just a couple of years ago. And since then we've had some small growth last year. But that was to be expected. When you have gone down to zero, you're going to slowly climb up. But this slow climb up is not enough. We need massive investment. We need thousands of jobs created. We need foreign exchange coming into this country, flowing into this country. But where are we on the global landscape when it comes to investment? We're really not anywhere on the scene. Investors think of China, they think of Vietnam, India, the Philippines, Malaysia, not so much about Sri Lanka. And why is that? Because there was a time in the 1980s and 1990s, investors were favorable towards Sri Lanka, but not so much anymore. And to discuss this and the obstacles and of course the solutions, we have Mr. Upul Jayasuriya, President's Council, former President of the Bar Association, and most importantly for this program, former Chairman of the Board of Investment of Sri Lanka, where he served from 2015 until 2017. Welcome back to the program, Mr. Jayasuriya.
Thank you for inviting Niresh.
Now, Mr. Jayasuriya, in a nutshell, if we don't bring in this investment, massive investment, whether it's this government or any other government, well, Sri Lanka is going to be in a mess. Right now, we have a lifeline thrown to us by the government of India, which has given us a loan for our fuel. We have the IMF, the World Bank, the ADB. They are giving us significant amounts of money, but that's not going to create the massive numbers of jobs which we need. Now we have the BOI, the Board of Investment, which is supposed to be the one-stop shop handling all of this. But in the past couple of decades, the BOI seems to have lost its way. It is not the BOI that we knew in the 1980s and 1990s. So what's happened here, Mr. Jayasuriya? Why is it that the BOI is not in the forefront of bringing investment and doesn't appear so confident in bringing in investors as it used to be?
Well, as you know, the BOI came into operation the 7th of March 1978. It was brought in by President Jayawardena.
Then it was known as the GCEC.
It was GCEC, and the name was changed, and then few changes were also done to the law. And from that time itself, originally in the BOI zone, within the area of authority, the local authority powers were also vested with the BOI, but sometime later it was taken off. But that was also the vision of President Jayawardena, because he knew if you leave the local authorities to handle the BOI companies, that there will be people who will be asking for bribes. So that is why he vested it in the BOI. But anyway, that has now slipped away. But still, apart from that, Schedule B of the BOI law, under that, Internal Revenue Law, Environmental Law, Customs Law, Exchange Control Law, then few other laws that are not so important are included, whereas the executive power of exercising those powers that are there vested in those respective institutions were vested in the BOI. So exchange control was not the exchange control of the central bank, it was the BOI. So the inland revenue was not the inland revenue, that those powers were exercised by the BOI. So likewise, it was a one-stop shop in without any hesitation, one could call it to be. But then over the years, customs have become a law unto themselves, and then they don't much care about the BOI. And then the exchange control law, of course, is again supposed to be exercised by the BOI, but the central bank also, they do not put their foot down and they say, no, this is your baby. They don't do that. Sometimes when the BOI officer, even to reluctance or whatever, write a letter and then ask exchange control. One instance I can give you, it was I think Mass Holding has asked for a loan of some $30 million from the IFC, International Finance Corporation, that's the World Bank, a lending authority. And our officers, they should not have done that, because they was reluctant to do so, because the central bank was also imposing authority, asked the approval from the exchange control department. 1 year has passed, and Mr. Amalin, one day when he met me officially at the BOI, he told me, by the way, nothing urgent, but there is also this, we have asked for this approval 1 year ago. I said, why exchange control? We are the exchange control. Then immediately in the presence of Mr. Amalin and also the officer, I called the officer also, I asked the exchange controller and asked, what about this approval? It has been sought from your office. He said, no, Mr. Jayasuriya, why don't you all give the approval yourself? I said, why did you put it down in writing? For 1 year she was also sitting on that letter. I said, give the letter today itself. So the letter was given. So now the Inland Revenue Law. Inland Revenue Law, the new Inland Revenue Law was brought in I think few years back. That new Inland Revenue Law is not in the BOI schedule, as a result of which BOI is functus as to the operation of the taxes. So they are taxable. Since the new act came into operation, every BOI company that signs a Section 17 agreement has to pay taxes. Now, is it a competitive thing as far as the region is concerned? India is giving tax holidays, Vietnam is giving tax holidays, Bangladesh is giving tax holidays. Now, all this, you must also not forget the fact that all these zones or the BOIs on those respective countries, they studied the system in Sri Lanka. We were only second to Singapore. When we started in 1978, they came, they studied, they went back, and they started doing on their own. But they are doing much better than we have done, or what we are doing here. Biggest problem that we are facing today are the liner agencies. Many instances, people go from one to another, they are pushed from pillar to post. These agencies do not give their respective approval. Maybe the electricity board, maybe the local authority, maybe the road development authority, maybe the environmental authority. So many places. If it is a building project, you have to get about 22 approvals. Now, having studied all this only, that is why we were having, at that time, we were having about, for a month, 10 to 15 agreements that were signed and sealed by the BOI. When they make an agreement up to that point, they spend fair amount of money, the investor. Maybe there is a local investor also. Having done all that, they cannot implement this. So, as a result of which, we have to terminate these agreements, more than 10 to 15 agreements a month.
Now, when you say they cannot implement, why is that? Because
when they go from place to place, the institution that I just said, CEB, local authority, road development, environmental, taxes and all that, they ask for bribes. They ask for bribes. I am saying this very plainly. There was one instance where the secretary of a land ministry was asking for a bribe. That was the investor complained about it, and I insisted that he should complain to the private department, and then that was taken up before trial at bar. They were convicted and they sentenced to jail about 20 years. Secretary of a ministry, can you believe this? So if at that level, if there's that much of corruption, he asked for a bribe of some 30-40 million. What about the lower levels? At every level there was this corruption. I must say.
I mean, you can imagine that the Pradesh Sabha's technical officers, the PHI, they will all want something. But when you get to the level of a secretary of a ministry, I mean, that's plain
This is nothing to, I mean, one can look at our situation and cry the way that things are happening or not happening in this country. I mean, bringing that simple amendment to the BOI law and then making it a tax holiday to be given by the BOI under the as far as BOI law is concerned. Now, whilst that is there, that BOI cannot give this tax holiday, now there is another institution that has been created, which is the port city. Now, port city can give tax holidays up to 40 years. So you are creating a discrepancy. The port city situation is much different. There, the position is that you can have the factory in the country, not in the port city itself, but you can have the operational, the office,
registered office,
and then you can have some kind of office there, administrative office or whatever you call it. Then you are entitled to the same facilities that are given to a port city project. Whereas a BOI company, whatever the number of employees that you employ and the investment that you bring in, you can't give the tax holiday. So will anybody come? Is it that are we inviting people to come, or are we inviting people not to come?
Now, Mr. Jayasuriya, on the topic of tax holidays, now that has been abused. We know that. However, you need to, as a government, as a country, you need to give tax holidays to entice foreign investors, because I mean, my understanding is a foreign investor will look at the entire region. He or she doesn't really care which country it is, as long as certain factors are available. For example, ports, airports, electricity, transportation, all those things. And of course, the levels of corruption, all those are looked at. But tax holidays, more than anything, I would think, are the factor which dominate. So, if India is giving tax holidays and Vietnam is giving tax holidays, we need to match that at least.
Definitely so. I mean, some people in the government, I have always heard this from the Interlude department, some of the officers are saying, why are we giving this kind of tax holiday? We are losing so much. But they don't understand, this is not a question of they are losing. If you don't offer the tax holiday, the investor won't come into this country. So then we won't get anything. We won't get employment, we won't get revenue, we won't get investment, we won't get anything. We won't get the taxes also. So here you are giving a tax holiday, as far as the Interlude department is concerned, they can turn a blind eye to that. But things are happening in the country. The FDI has come into the country. So that's a very narrow way of approaching it. Now, on the other hand, why should there be an anomaly when the port city is giving tax holidays? Why shouldn't the BOI be giving tax holidays? So there can't be argument on that, no? And also, BOI has been following another principle. The principle is that BOI company, which is in a zone under Section 17 agreement, cannot amalgamate with another company that is outside the BOI zone, which is not covered by that same agreement. Why? Because then with the tax holiday that has been given to the BOI company, they will cover it with the revenue or the turnover of the company that is outside the BOI zone. So that is why the BOI is monitoring this very closely, and they won't allow that to happen. But now this is the very thing that is now allowed at the port city. So this makes no sense. I don't think people have looked at it overall without saying, no, this is my authority, this is this commission, that commission. It's not the way. This is one country. It's a small country. It's a small economy that we are talking about. They must all get together. Now the staff at the BOI are very experienced, not only experienced, they are highly qualified. At the senior level, most of them have master's degrees in the relevant field. So they know what they are talking about. Now the port city is starting from the scratch. They are getting new recruitment of employees here and there, and they don't know anything about anything. So whereas they should have been merged together, at least at some level. So they should have obtained the services of these experienced officers who are the BOI, so that they will apply the same kind of standards, similar standards, so that there will be a synergy in moving forward, which is not happening now.
So that's very sad, and it looks like very few people are actually looking at the country in a holistic sense. It all seems to be Well, this is my turf, and that's your turf. That kind of situation.
It is also becoming worse now. See, the country's policy. Now we are talking about tax holiday, but that's one aspect of it. Now there are a large number of companies that have come into Sri Lanka and then invested in power sector, right? There were about another 5 or 6 companies at that time. Each one was hoping to invest something like nearly 3 to 4 billion with regard to LNG power supply, and the government had to decide only on the cost of power. Now there had been a lot of companies that have signed agreements and then come into Sri Lanka and then signed power purchase agreements with the CEB and all that. Large amount of monies have been invested and they have entered into contracts. And there was this solar power. I'm not trying to hold a candle for any of these people. The agreement was CEB was going to buy power at 27 rupees per unit. Now all of a sudden they brought down the power. The rates were brought down to 19 on slab basis, 19, 15, and then going down to 14. Now the justification of that is there had been a cabinet paper that has been put and it has been approved. I pity the cabinet ministers and even the president. They have been taken for a damn good ride by whoever who submitted this paper and said that we are going to get power from Sobadanavi, a company which is on the face of it, it is supposed to be a government-owned company, but which is not. It is owned by and controlled by 3 private individuals. 3 private individuals. These 3 companies. There are 3 companies. That is several. There are Paradev. There are altogether Lanka Transformers. These 3 companies are controlled by 3 people and they have a shareholding of 51%. These 3 people are controlling that, right? And when they submitted the cabinet paper, now this was spoken by Mr. Harsha Disila in the parliament yesterday in a very eloquent manner. I compliment him for the revelation that he made, and then I am now talking another side of the story also. Which is with regard to, people didn't know that who this Sobadanavi was. Sobadanavi is controlled by these 3 individual private company. Money is going to their pockets, right? And the CEB shareholding has gone down from now to about 35%. Now they control 51% of this entire thing. The West Coast and the Paradev and all those companies are controlling. So when they put the cabinet paper, they said we are buying power from Sobadanavi at 20 rupees. And it also reveals that we, on the basis that 20 rupees has been calculated on the basis of $1 at 195 rupees. It's shocking. It's shocking. The dollar is now going at 300 plus or minus, right? So when this approval was sought from the PUCL, Public Utilities Commission, they said, are you out of your mind? This is not 195 rupees. Then there were 2 other factors also which were not revealed to the cabinet. They have given the approval. So as a result of which, when it was worked out on the correct dollar conversion rate, and it was coming to 43 rupees. So we are trying to, at the expense of these BOI companies that have already signed and supplying power from solar at 27 rupees, and then buy power, you are going to reduce that so that that money can be pumped to pay Sobadanavi. You get the point? So that you can pay up to about 43%. Once the agreement is signed, they will also put it tight with the dollar. Then the dollar changes. At the time the cabinet paper was approved also, the dollar had been around 300, but later on it will go up to about 305, 310. Then they say, oh no, we will apply the current rate. So at the expense of the investors who have signed, we are giving the benefit to somebody, 3 people who are controlling. So the message that we are sending to the investment community is that this government, this country, I'm not putting the blame on particular government even, is a situation where whatever you sign, The policy, the principle, they keep changing. The goal post is always change from one to another.
Now, Mr. Jayasuriya,
so will investors be enticed to come here anymore?
And one point strikes me that now countries like India, Malaysia, Vietnam, they are able to attract the top companies in the world, the largest. I'm talking Apple, Microsoft, Meta, and so on. But we aren't even in that league. We just simply now I was reading an article last week where an enormous amount of money is going to be invested by Facebook, that's Meta, which is basically pulling out some investment from China because of the current tariff situation with Donald Trump and China, and they basically are going to invest it in India. So we don't even figure in these conversations.
This is what is said. Rajesh, I think what we have to be doing at this moment of time is to talk to those investors and ask them, what do you want? Tell us what you want. We will give it to you. You are not going to give the country to them. Tell us whatever you want. Is it tax holidays? Is it the visas? Is it the importation, duty-free importation, which we have given already anyway, right? Or resident visas and whatever else, whatever they want. And get even in this kind of process, right? Government should also invite the opposition. Have an all-party consensus as to what we are going to offer. Because all parties will want to have the FDIs come into this country. So it could not be the effort of one party alone. It should not be only the government party. Why should that be? It should be all parties. Now you can see whatever the parties that are there in the political fray. We invite them all. First come to a consensus what we can offer, what we should offer to entice these people to come and park their dollars. But we don't see anybody coming. I think in some other program they asked me, what about the investments that are coming to Sri Lanka at the moment? I say, investments? Everything is in there. Now, nowhere in the vicinity any investment coming to this country. So, if you make that kind of an effort, I'm sure, whichever the opposition party, I will not name them, but there are so many opposition parties, and they are mostly the names that I'm referring to, are investor-friendly parties that are in the opposition.
Absolutely.
Be it the Sajaba or be it the UNP or any other party, they are all investor-friendly parties. And also the archaic law of this land ownership, change it.
Right. Let's get to the land law in a little while, Mr. Jayasuriya. We need to take a short commercial break. We are in conversation with Mr. Upul Jayasuriya, President's Council. Don't go away, we'll be right back.
The People's Platform. With your name, your unique talent, your phone number. The Sri Lanka's Got Talent PO Box 100 Ratmalana or WhatsApp us on 076 599 7788.
කීර්තිසිංහ ලයිව් ෂෝ සඳහා සූදානම් මේ මාස 17 වෙනිදා සිට සති අග සිරසේ රාත්‍රී 8:30ට සජීවීව.
And people listen to us. And also because they don't like that wasteful, corrupt political culture. So the smoothest transition ever, I think any country could learn a lesson,
Just the fact that you're a woman is not sufficient. You need to have a good backbone. You need to be sure of who you are. And you need to have the strength to speak up.
After the Aragal era, we are led to believe that there are a lot of young people who are interested in politics, in governance, in system change and all of that.
Thousands of people who are involved. It's very polarizing. So we have to seek certain reconciliation also in the society when we talk about this. We shouldn't always be polarizing. We shouldn't always be, leveraging it politically.
Face to Face, Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m.
Design is like music. It's a whole orchestra. The dots, the lines, the dashes. It's a whole symphony. It has to feel good.
Come on a fantastic discovery of design as Anthony Burke meets designers from Mumbai to Yogyakarta, showcasing groundbreaking works.
This is me, this is my creation, this is my life.
Culture by Design.
Tomorrow at 6 p.m. onwards on TV1.
සියලි සජිතනි ලයිව් ෂෝ සඳහා සූදානම් මේ මාස 17 වෙනිදා සිට සති අග සිරසේ රාත්‍රී 8:30ට සජීවීව.
If you do not perform, or if you have not performed, and if you do not perform, this is a protest vote we are going to place, and that signal, that protest vote will go down very well because the government will know that their popularity is coming down and they will have to arrest him.
This government needs checks and balances.
You can't say only winning parties announce their candidates. There have been it has been time and time again where, candidates are chosen.
Our police is still being restructured and reformed at the moment, and that is part of the reason. But I also think organized crime is a bit unsettled at the moment.
Face the Nation every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. The People's Platform.
Welcome back to the People's Platform. I am in conversation with Mr. Upul Jayasuriya, former chairman of the BOI, as well as being an eminent President's Council and former president of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka. Now, Mr. Jayasuriya, one important point that you brought up was this all-party consensus. And now, very often we see the government of the day will go ahead and sign an agreement, be it this government, the last government, any government. And then what happens is the matter is raised in Parliament. There is a huge debate. Opposition parties go to town, and that investor's name is just thrown all over the floor of Parliament, the floor of the House. And that's scary when you're an investor. You think that you've given a proposal, you've signed an agreement with the government, and then all of a sudden you're in the headlines. And this happens very often. I mean, of course there has to be due diligence by Parliament, and if there is any hanky-panky to do with any contract, any agreement, then that must be looked into. But very often it's piecemeal, isn't it? Practically every agreement is queried.
Torn apart.
Torn apart, exactly. So as you said, isn't it better to have a consensus on what will be offered to investors?
Yes, of course. What I said, I meant there should be a national consensus. Now take the Constitutional Council that has the Prime Minister as chairman of the Constitutional Council, I think the Speaker, sorry, the Constitutional Council, and also there are representatives from all other parties. So like that, for investments, can't there be a all-party congregation consisting of members from different political parties, nominations, not necessarily from the Parliament, but also from outside experts to be brought in. So they will pool in their views and then come to a consensus, so that once the the entire process is participated by the people, representative from different parties, no party can go back on that. That is how you tie them together. So, because these are national issues, investment is not something that is particularly important to one particular political party, it's important to the country. So, if political parties are acting for the benefit of the country, then they should throw it out and then battle it within a committee room and then come to a decision that is beneficial to the country. The biggest problem at this moment is we must eliminate this in this approval process, eliminate the one-on-one meeting and then the seeking approvals and so on. It should be all put on online, so that there you eliminate meeting and then asking for approvals. If that is done, and also now take one of the problems that we have is the economic transformation law. Now the one-stop shop
which was passed last year.
Now this has created the Economic Commission, Investment Zone Sri Lanka, 7 board members, Economic Commission has 10 board members. Then under that the Investment Zone Sri Lanka is getting divided into several zone companies, and these companies can be even sold to the private sector. Then there is the Office of the International Trade, also 7 members and ambassadors and DG and all that. Then National Productivity Commission, 6 members. Sri Lanka is Economics and International Trade, 6 board members. Altogether, these 6 institutions will have 47 board members. So at the moment, everything is handled by the BOI. Right? So this is
going to be broken up.
So one stop is now going into several shops. So now the investment zone, you get the approval, you get the allocation of the land from the investment zone Lanka, right? And then you must go to the BOI. And then now, as far as the liner agencies are concerned, if any liner agency doesn't give the necessary approval, then you have to refer to the minister. Minister has to take it up with the. Why should the minister take it up? Sorry, the Economic Commission. Economic Commission has to take it to the minister. Minister has to take it up with the Minister of Finance. They must come to a consensus. The Minister of Finance is President. Will he have the power, the time to allocate time on each and every investment like this? Why go to the politicians? Why trouble them? Leave it to the Commission. I mean, if you are putting a high-powered commission, which should be the BOI or whichever the equivalent that may come into being. So leave it to them, give the responsibility to them. If they don't give it in two weeks time, give them another 2 weeks for the commission to decide to give the approval. If they don't give that approval, let there be a deemed approval. So this kind of situation, people are in a non-plus situation, because now all these 6 officers will be in 6 buildings. Right? So if you want to canvass some policy, you have to go to one place. But you have to get the views of the BOI, you have to get the views of the Zone Lanka, you have to get the views of the Productivity Commission.
So this is a classic case of too many cooks spoiling the soup.
Definitely. Now this is total a draft put on by the IMF. The IMF fellows also, they draw consultants from here and there and then put this something together and then tell the government, okay, you do this. But we should at this end have experts to tell what you are suggesting.
But
it makes no sense.
I'm not very clear on this. Is the IMF really an expert on enticing investment into a country?
They are not. What they do is they draw people from here and there from different countries, and they bring all kinds of experience that they say they claim to have, and then give this kind of a thing. Right? This is disaster. If it is going to be implemented in the way that it is now proposed, which is now law, right? There will be disaster in this country where nobody will come in here because they won't know which institution to go to.
Now, Mr. Jayasuriya, another point is that when you try to get a project approved in Sri Lanka, it takes months and years. But ideally, how fast would an investor want to basically start work?
It should be done in one day. I saw the other day in the papers that it has been identified that the BOI approval process takes about, this is not the blame, should not go to the BOI, because they had to get approval from various other connected agencies. Takes about 200 plus days, and that they have now decided to cut it down by half. So that's still going to be about 100 plus days. So my suggestion is that it should not take any day, number of days. It should be done in one day.
But is that feasible?
It is feasible.
Has it been done like
during the time of Mr. Dhammika Perera also? It was happening. You give the approval. All that you have to examine and see would be whether this is the project that is sought to be implemented has any violation of the laws that we have in this country.
Right.
That is why that in time and again we on many issues the BO had to seek the advice of the Attorney General. That is why I suggested that to the then Attorney General who was there at that time that please release officers from the Attorney General's department at very high level, so that that officer will come to the BOI and then spend a few hours every day. That was agreed upon by the then Attorney General. He told Mr. Upul Jayasuriya who was there at that time, and there was an officer present at the BOI. So straight away we trash it out and then decide whether there is a legality or illegality. It should be done in one day.
So when you say violation of any law, you are talking about things like the exchange control, land issues, national security.
No, those are not issues. Those are not the issues. The exchange control, we can give the approval, no. So we can decide on our own. Land issues also, you can give a land from the BOI zone, or you can they can select their own land. Talking about if it's to print money, for instance,
yes,
you can't do it. That is illegal, right? Or if it is to run a brothel, you can't do it. That is illegal. I'm just giving some simple examples. So look at that kind of situation. Nobody is coming to print money here, or nobody is trying to set up a company for laundering money. So those are the things that should be gone into. So this can be done in no time, right? And also the BOI, I mean the top, should be also very flexible. It can't draw a line and say not 1 inch beyond this. An accountant would say, he'll draw a line and say no, this is it. Auditor would say the same thing. But what is required at the BOI is look at the practicality of it. There was
the more marketing
side of it, and also the objectivity of the project, and then how it should be approached. There was one instance, one gentleman one day walked into my office when I was there. He came and said, Mr. Jayasuriya, I want to bring the back office of the London Stock Exchange, part of it, to Sri Lanka. I said, very good suggestion. So what do you want from me? He said, yes, what I want from you is a letter saying that when they come, that you will facilitate this whole process, and that you will give them all the encouragement and all that kind of a letter. I said, yes, but have you applied for approval from the BOI? He said, no, I have not done that. Now, any other person would do is, okay, in that case, go and meet the director or whoever is concerned, and then get an application and fill it and then come. I didn't say that. I said, you wait for a moment. I called the director promotion, because this sounds to be a good proposition he's talking about. And he said 2 days later, I'm going back to England. A Sri Lankan citizen based in London. I said, okay, we wait. I got the director promotion to come there. You sit with this gentleman and they fill this application form for him. He signed it. Then I gave him the letter. So matter was all solved within just 5 minutes. What did it cost the BOI? Nothing, just one letter we are given. We have not violated the procedure also. We have done it within the scope of our framework, and then we have said, okay, we will be accommodating them, and then we will be giving them fullest cooperation, and then we will most welcome if they come to Sri Lanka. You won't believe, within 3 months, I must also pay this compliment. Every time I mention this, I pay this compliment to Mr. Ranjit Friend, who was the then chairman of the UDA, who was a very honest gentleman. He also gave them facility, premises for them to start their office that was in front of New Olympia. And they opened the office, and 750 people from Sri Lanka were employed in this office. And now today they have more than 1,500 people working, and the entire back office of the London Stock Exchange is in Sri Lanka. So this is the kind of positivity that is expected from the very top of the BOI also. You can't draw the line and say, no, we can't do this, you have to go and then canvas, and then you send your application, and then get them to send the application. How can you send this fellow is nobody. He was not London Stock Exchange. He was somebody. writing a letter or sending an investment proposal to the BOI. But I accepted that. Somebody would have said, it's very wrong for the chairman to have accepted this and then given this kind of letter. I said, so what? I'll face it. I gave the letter, I got the job done. And 1,500 people are employed today. So likewise, there are so many instances. Another instance was, I think that was also John case, when they were putting this waterfront. They had some problems, and then small issues for me, I thought. They were saying, Mr. Jayasuriya, the entire the directorate came, Mr. Susanta Gunawardena, Ajit Gunawardena, Susanta Ratnayaka, Ajit Gunawardena, all of them came and said, you want some help from me? What's the help you want from me? He said, no, we want to import steel, and we want to import all the steel that is required for the project at once. Now, normally we don't do that. This is one of the top blue chip companies that are making this request, so we have to trust them. Some amount of trust is required. I said, yes, I asked him why. Because if it's a volume, we can get a better discount. Makes sense. I said, yes, we'll approve that. Then we want another one. We want a space to store all this at the BOI site. The BOI site is here. Now all these duty-free imports have to be located in the BOI site itself. So we have to be able to store it somewhere else.
So practical problems.
These are practical problems. I said, yes, so where do you want to store it? I think some land that they have identified somewhere nearby. I said, yes, okay. I mean, these things shouldn't even come to the chairman. If the chairman of the top adopts a practical approach like that, then it filters down. It filters down. Then the officers, the directors, the executive directors, they will also start using the same kind of way and accommodate people. I was always saying, don't ask any investor why. Whenever they make a request, ask yourself the question, why not? Do it. Because we want the investors. We want the investment.
Mr. Jayasuriya, do we actually talk to investors and ask them, what is it that you as an investor require from us? Do we do that?
We don't do that. We don't do that. We are saying, this is all we can give. That's all. Nothing more. Nothing more. That approach has to change.
But other countries are doing exactly that.
Other countries are doing, I don't know who has to take the decision about this kind of thing. Maybe if the officers at the lower level can't take the decision, they put the decision to be taken by the board. Let the board take the decision. Right? So, I mean, every week the board should be meeting, if at all. Why not? Or send a circular resolution if there is something more to be required. I was even making recommendations to change the law in certain instances with regard to the land law, with regard to public quoted companies. Because public quoted companies also, there were some of them were BOI companies, the ownership can change every day. What is not owned by the foreigners today, by tomorrow, if it is public quoted, some shares can shift the other way, and it will become a company that is a foreign company, more than 51%, 50%. Then they are not entitled to hold the ownership of the land. So that has to be changed. So we identified that and made the recommendation. So like that, this office of the Sri Lanka Economic and International Trade, or the Productivity Commission, I don't know that kind of issue, which commission it will come under. I can't even look at it and then see where it will come under. So that kind of practical approach has to be adopted. Now even the land law is a big problem, that I'm telling you. No foreigner is encouraged by the land laws that we have in Sri Lanka. And also the attitude of the Ministry of Finance. The attitude of the Ministry of Finance is so putrid, I'm telling you. Secretary downwards, even the present secretary, they're putrid. Right? They think that they are there to save money. Last cent to the government. Yes, they must save money, but not at the expense of the government and also at the expense of the taxpayer.
But isn't the urgent need now, at this point in time, to bring in that foreign investment more than anything else. But of course, it has to be a level playing field. There can be no hanky-panky in agreements, no bribery and so on. And the Sri Lankan taxpayer should not suffer. But we need that investment, don't we? I mean, why is it that everyone hasn't got behind this?
The original problem, as I told you, one of the biggest problem is the tax holiday, which is now, as I told you, BOI gives no tax holidays, Port City gives tax holidays. So as a result of it, nobody is coming to the BOI at this moment of time. So,
but shouldn't there be a flexibility in that? Now, if India decides tomorrow that they are going to give a bigger tax holiday, then obviously we need to adapt to that.
Yeah, it's not only the tax holiday is the issue here. Even visas. Now there will be people who will be interested in coming and parking themselves sometime maybe at the old age. And there are money people. Why not we open the visas, like take Malaysia. Live in Malaysia, the visas. They were giving a visa to a person who brings in $50,000. $50,000. What is $50,000? In today's context, it may be about how much? 15 million rupees.
Something like that.
Something like that. 15 million rupees. Now, why can't we say not 50,000, that's $300,000? You come with it and you become an honorable citizen of Sri Lanka. You are given a residence visa for 5 years or 10 years. Why can't we do that? This was, I think, Ranil Wickremesinghe government was talking about it, but they never did it. We should do that. We must invite people to come. If Malaysia can invite people with $50,000, I think so many Sri Lankans have got the citizenship in Malaysia.
Oh, absolutely. I know so many, you know, former colleagues, friends who are basically living in Malaysia.
So this is one way we can open the doors, not to the paupers, but to people with some means. I'm not saying to bring it down so much. We must be flexible. Every time, I mean, the foreigners, the amount of trouble that they have to face at the Department of Immigration. Now the immigration control is now in remand. I don't know. This is funny setup, funny country this is. Right? And they don't, the court orders are not complied with. It is not only the Department of Immigration, even the Ministry of Finance. Couple of people should be in remand because they are violating the judgments of the apex court of this country. I'm telling you. It's just that they are lucky that it has not gone before the strict judges. There are some very strict judges, not so strict judges.
Well, I'm afraid we'll have to leave that aspect
no,
for
but what I'm saying
day.
is, these are situations that one must come to face as far as this immigration control is concerned. Now he's in remand until the trial is over.
Absolutely.
What about the other judgments that are not honoured? What about the cost to the state when judgments are not honoured? It's costing every day. In one case, I know it's costing 5 million rupees every month, costing the treasury. So nobody is responsible. The officer who takes the decision, he'll probably retire and then honorably go home and he'll collect his pension and all that, or he'll get his promotion and move to another place and another. But finally, who pays? It's the taxpayer.
The taxpayer.
Poor man.
Well, clearly a lot has to change, and it has to change very fast. And I'm afraid we're out of time tonight. My thanks to Mr. Upul Jayasuriya, President's Council, former President of the Bar Association, and of course former Chairman of the BOI. Thank you very much for being with us this evening.
Thank you, Resh. Thanks for inviting.
And thank you to you for watching. Don't go away because the news is coming up next. Have a great evening.
The People's Platform.